Yeah. Right, every car driver knows the frustration of being stuck behind a lorry as it slowly passes another on the motorway.
Well, from today, lorries are banned from overtaking on a stretch of the M11 near Saffron, Walden, in a bid to reduce congestion. It follows a similar trial on the A14. Martin Stew reports.
Frustrating, isn't it? Sat behind two lorries whilst one tries to overtake the other, which seems to be travelling at exactly the same speed. More than frustrating, it can lead to accidents, snarl-ups and mile-long tailbacks. That's why today the Highways Agency has launched an 18-month trial banning lorries from overtaking on a stretch of the M11 in both directions near Junction 9.
This clearly is a positive move for the thousands of motorists. The slow overtaking vehicles can have serious consequences for congestion behind, potentially miles back, making drivers have to brake quite suddenly.
Well, this is the southbound no overtaking zone. You can see that we're down to just 2 lanes, and as we're going up quite a steep hill, a lot of lorries get stuck behind each other, and when they try to overtake, that's what causes real frustration. There's already a similar trial on the A14, and if this one's successful, it could be launched elsewhere.
Well, yeah, good idea, because if you get stuck in the middle behind them, it's the right pain.
You see them overtake each other, then they get stuck going side by side up the whole hill and just blocks the whole road.
Benefit me, whether it will benefit the drivers is another thing, I don't know. Obviously, if the lorries are empty or freighted, then they need to overtake to save them keep braking and slowing up.
Russell Jarvis has the same concerns. He drives all over East Anglia from his base in Norwich.
We just want to get on with the job, simple as. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's a slow lorry in front of me, and he's loaded and I'm empty, well, basically I want to overtake him and get on with the job. If you've got a really slow-moving lorry, wide load or whatever, you're just going to get one big massive queue of lorries snaking up this hill, not being allowed to overtake.
No snakes today, but plenty flouting the rules.
There you go, clear example that they're still ignoring the signs. And another one, there you go, another one overtaking.
The Highways Agency say they hope the ban will be self-enforced, but warn police will be patrolling the area. Martin Stew, Anglia News, Essex.
I bet there are loads of you sitting at home going, oh, I can't stand it when that...
A lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah,
both sides.
Yeah.
Well, if you have got any experience of that, do get in touch with us. The usual address, it's jonathanandbecky@itv.com, jonathanandbecky@itv.com for anything like that or any other story you want to get in touch with us about tonight.
Lawyers are getting together from today to try and settle a toxic waste case in Northamptonshire. 16 children were affected by birth defects caused by the waste, which came from a steelworks in Corby during the 80s and 90s. Last year, the Borough Council was found to be negligent in its management of the waste, but it decided to appeal against the ruling. It's hoped both sides can now come to an agreement over a compensation payment.
Peterborough is mourning a priest who died in the plane crash which killed the Polish president. Father Bronisław Gostomski worked in the city during the 80s and 90s. He was one of 97 people on board the presidential jet. When it crashed in Russia on Saturday morning, the Garden of St Peter's and All Souls Church has become a focal point for the city's Polish community.
It's an added poignancy that they're far from their homeland. And this church, in a sense, represents a symbol of their homeland. It is a shock and it's a real sad loss. But as they gather here in prayer, I think they'll be joined together in solidarity with one another.
Right, it's just gone 12 minutes past 6. Do you stay with us here on ITV Anglia? Of course, loads more still to come.
Yes, we'll have the weather, plus all the news and sport from your part of the region. A man's been arrested after a passenger died in a car crash near Beccles. The crash happened on the A146 just before 3 o'clock yesterday morning. Police say no other vehicle was involved in the initial incident, but the car was then hit by a green Vauxhall Astra. The drivers of both vehicles suffered minor injuries.
Protesters angered by plans to build one of Europe's largest substations close to their village have welcomed a decision to delay the project. More than 40 acres of land at Little Dunham near Saffron would be affected if Beccles Council gave the go-ahead. The station would connect a new offshore wind farm to the national grid.
A new report claims 2 out of 3 people across our region couldn't save a life in an emergency. The report was commissioned by St John Ambulance. The charity is now launching a campaign to get more people to learn first aid.
A house in Saffron, Walden, which is generating its own electricity, is one of the first to benefit from a new government scheme.
The feed-in tariff means John Stebbings is being paid every time the sun shines. And he says the investment is environmentally as well as financially sound. Claire McGlasson reports.
Make money while the sun shines. This house in Saffron, Walden is one of the first in the country to benefit from a new scheme where it pays to capture the rays. John Stebbings gets around a quarter of his total electricity from his new solar system, and he gets money back for doing it.
We've always wanted solar energy. Until now it was just completely unaffordable, and with the new feed-in tariff it's almost a no-brainer really. It's worth doing it as an investment, and it's a bit like having a green cake and eating it really.
And here, inside the pantry, is the clever bit. This is the inverter, which turns the raw power from the roof into electricity which can be used inside the house or fed back into the national grid. John and his partner get paid for that energy, even if they use it all themselves. But they've had to pay for the panels up front. The total installation costs £7,500. They get paid 41.3 pence for every unit of electricity the panels generate. That works out around £450 a year, and they'll save an estimated £100 on electricity bills.
It means that the payback is possibly within 10 years, as opposed to in the past where it was possibly 30 or 40 years.
The scheme, called the feed-in tariff, started on the 1st of April. Installer Robert Flynn from Saffron, Walden thinks this will become a common sight.
So if you had a nice big roof and it faces south and it's nice and sunny and there are no trees, that could be a perfect roof to put solar PV onto.
John is hoping for a hot summer. Blue skies mean a sunny outlook for his finances too. Claire McGlasson, Anglia News, Saffron, Walden.
Sport now, and a mixed bag of results for the region's Football League clubs.
Defeats for both of our Championship sides. Colchester were our sole victors in League One, and Norwich are now just 2 wins away from promotion. Donovan Blake rounds up all of the action.
Roy Keane may have had fond memories of his time as a Nottingham Forest player, but his return to the club as Ipswich boss didn't turn out as he'd hoped. Once again, he bemoaned his team's inability to score when on top and to deal with pressure inside their own box. The result, 3 second-half Forest goals without reply, and Town stay in the bottom half of the Championship. That was their 10th defeat on the road, while Peterborough suffered their 11th at home. Tommy Rowe's goal, the bright spot in their 2-1 defeat to Leicester, Gary Johnson's first game in charge. Posh already down. Norwich not quite up yet from League One. 2 more wins should be enough after a frustrating afternoon against the MK Dons. City were baffled about some refereeing decisions, not least this one. No penalty given here, despite a clear handball.
As I said at the time, and it wouldn't look out of place in the NBA, that's for sure. And how he's not saw that, you'd have to ask him, but yeah, strange.
At least City had the last word. Chris Martin's free kick salvaging a point, but Grant Holt misses the next 2 games through suspension. As for the teams chasing Norwich, well, Colchester comprehensively dealt with Swindon to boost their own playoff hopes. Ashley Vincent and Anthony Wordsworth, who scored twice, were the year's headline makers. But Southend were unable to ease their relegation worries at Leeds. Both goals conceded in the second half. The Shrimpers are now 4 points from safety. Donovan Blake, Anglia News.
A farmer from Stowmarket, who spent his life working with Suffolk punches, has delayed his retirement to look after just one more. William Marland, who's 72, was ready to hang up his reins last year when his last remaining punch died. But he just couldn't resist the chance to take on 10-month-old Falcon.
Felt lost round here without any Suffolks after we lost our mare in September. I prefer them younger rather than older. They grow to your ways then. They get used to your voice and your actions and everything, and they're much easier to handle, I find.
Great fella. Now, a rural town in Norfolk is getting a permanent gym. That's after putting in months of hard work. Fitness fans in Stalham have been using a mobile gym for more than a year now. It became so popular, they were awarded a grant of nearly £9,000 from Active England to build a permanent one.